Hello, everyone, and welcome to another instance of Dune Learns. I'm here today with Sadman, the Data Analytics Manager at Sei. We're going to be going over everything Sei on-chain data. So what that will look like is we'll start off, as usual, with just the basics. I'm going to walk you through a lot of things that some of our more senior analysts out there already know, including just how to get started on Dune, what decoding looks like, kind of everything that you need to understand what will then be the fun part, which is what Sadman is going to go over, which is all of the top of mind metrics for Say today. Once we run through all of the demos, we'll of course have a Q&A at the end. Really excited to have everybody back online. I know that there are a lot of people currently out at Consensus Hong Kong, and even more people getting prepared to go to ETH Denver next week. So glad to be able to provide you guys with a little bit more info, and as always, be able to show you the inner workings of Dune. And let's kick off here. Actually, before we get started, Salman, you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm the data analytics manager at Say Foundation. So kind of just all things data with Say Cosmos and Say EVM, mostly on the foundation side. I help the labs guys as well. But yeah, if you guys have any questions related to Say data, just feel free to ping me. I'll drop my Telegram on my X somewhere in the chat.
Awesome. We're super happy to have you, Sadman. I'm gonna dive into the actual decoding demo now and kind of bring us home to be able to actually get to the fun part, which is Sadman's data. We'll see you soon, Sadman. Okay, so pretty much everyone that is watching this should be very familiar with this page. This is the cover page of Dune, and essentially what I'm going to be showing you is actually how to get started with working with your Say data. So what that's going to look like is we are going to first go to our profiles here, head over to your settings. We've got the actual contracts buried in the library. And you head here and you can automatically already see all of the contracts that I've decoded for other teams and other reasons. But today we're going to be focused on Say contracts. I'm going to grab something random here. This isn't applicable to Say, obviously, because it's abstract, but it's okay because that's kind of what we're here to show you. So once they prove that I am not a bot, we are going to go over here to the decoding submission form. And this is where the magic happens. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to select Say from the dropdown. You are going to enter the contract address, and this has obviously not been decoded because it is not a contract on Say. But you can see here pretty much all the information that you're going to need to put in to accurately pull out the events in this contract. So to give you guys a good idea of how decoding actually works, what we're doing is going from what would be raw data like a transaction, and we're pulling out what's happening internally to it. So a lot of you are familiar with swaps and other forms of AMMs. The actual events, swaps, burns, all of that happens internal to the contract. So we're getting all that information so that you're able to accurately pull it out and do analysis on it. So you put in your project name, you put in the contract name, you fill out the ABI. So this is always tricky for a lot of first timers. What I would say is the most important thing is to know what blockchain block scanner you're using. So when you actually go to a block scanner, you'll be able to see that the data has a contract has been confirmed. Once the contract has actually been confirmed, you'll be able to copy paste that ABI over here. So we're not going to actually go through that right now because I think that that might take about 40 minutes for me to show you how to actually do that on a blockchain scanner. But just know, you go there, you find the contract, and then you actually look for the confirmed ABI, and you should just be able to copy paste and drop it here. Once you actually drop the ABI, you'll be able to see the events on this page as well. So you'll be able to check everything before you actually submit. Most important thing to remember are these two little checkboxes down here that seem very innocuous but are super important. So you have enable bytecode matching and you have decode other contracts created by the same factory. So what do these things mean? Enable bytecode matching is really important for cross-chain submissions. So let's say that you are deploying a project that exists on Sei, Base, Abstract, so on and so forth. You're going to want to make sure that you click this, because that means any of the contracts that you submit and deploy across chain, as long as the bytecode is the same, which is essentially it's essentially the code that is created when a contract is created. So keeping that super high level and simple, it's almost like a fingerprint, but in the way that there are the same fingerprint on each contract on each chain if they are the same contract. So this would decode everything into one specific table that you would be able to cross query. So this is pretty important for when you're doing cross-chain analytics. The other thing here is decode other contracts created by the same factory. This is super duper important for all projects that are especially DeFi related. Like, let's say you have vaults, let's say you have pools, let's say you're even like using an NFT project that deploys all from the same factory. You're going to want to use this, because this means that you won't have to individually work with each contract as it's been deployed from the factory. We will automatically do that work for you, so that you don't really have to worry about anything like that. So make sure that you're clicking the right button at the right time, so that you're not really running into problems when you actually do your analytics. Let's move on. So going back to the contracts page, I'm going to go back through the library just to show you guys that again. Get the contracts. And then we're going to continue looking at this contract. And essentially what happens is when you get the contract decoded, you're going to see all the functions and events, and you should be able to actually query this information. So just using the transfer event here, you can run that. And this is my personal effects with no bells and whistles. So you should be able to just kind of run this, and it will pull up data. Unfortunately, I don't have a super fast computer, so we won't necessarily need to wait for all of that. Okay, great. So you can see all the transactions and everything down here. And once you've done this, you actually have already done the hard part of getting the raw events into one place, so that you can actually cross query things. So follow the same process for all Sei projects and anything that you're interested in decoding and getting evaluated on Dune, and you'll be good to go. The only other thing you need to know for pulling data in is that you can also upload data to Dune. So if we go to data, you can upload a new table. So this is really important for all projects that have an off-chain component. So this is what this looks like. It would actually be under the data table. And I realize that you guys might not have seen me actually query the data in the table, and I apologize for that. We'll go back in just one second, and I'll make sure to show you the right thing. That is the crime of having two screens to work with. So anyway, when you're uploading tables, you go here, you can upload a new table. This is really critical for off-chain data. Let's say you're pulling in information from an Oracle or anything like that that isn't kind of on-chain. Pull this in using the programmatic API or using a CSV. Then you upload it to Dune, and you can query it like a normal table and actually work with it in conjunction with any tables on Dune. And again, just going to go back and quickly show you what actually happens with the contracts. And I promise we are almost done with the 101. So essentially you can see here, this is the contract that I decoded earlier. Pull the table, you run it, and then you can see the data. And this shows you pretty much everything that happens inside of each of these transactions. So that is really it. It's meant to be super simple and really easy for everyone to do. We also have really amazing documentation at Dune. So if you are ever wondering how this decoding works, how to get everything done, let's say those two buttons that I just kind of showed you don't work in the way that you thought that they would, and you're just kind of wondering why, we have a very extensive decoding document here. So go to Dune Docs, type in decoding in the search bar, and it will pull you to this guide and kind of just show you everything that I walked you guys through. So make sure that you are getting all the information that you guys need before you even start working with the Sei contracts and pulling in all the analytics that you need to get the information. Make sure that you are fully informed, or just do what I did when I first started using Dune and dive in, and you will very quickly find if you are not decoding things properly. But anyway, hopefully that is helpful for everyone out there that is decoding contracts. And I'm going to pass it back to Sadman so that he can actually run you through what to do once you have all your data in one place. Take it away, Sadman.
Hey guys. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining. I made a few sample queries that we're just gonna run through. And I'm also gonna run through like a few Dune hacks that I like to use that maybe will help you guys, through your process for when you guys are querying stuff on Say. So yeah, for example, the first one here is the total unique lifetime wallets, right? So these are some templates I made, right? So just so we can run through them. So this is for a game. I forgot the game. I think it was Match Fighters. It's the game on Say, all right? So what we're gonna do is, right, we get all the contract addresses of the game. So these are the contract addresses. I had them filled in, and then we basically say like count how many unique, distinct means unique, how many unique addresses have interacted with these contracts, right, ever. So that gives us the total lifetime wallets that ever interacted with these contracts. And you can see that the table I'm using is say.transactions. So if you go to the search bar and type say, you'll see that there's a bunch of say tables. It's taking a while to come up, but yeah, once it comes up, you can see like what you can open the tables page and you can see what columns they have, right? So with say.transactions and say.logs, you can get most of the stuff in the EVM done, honestly, right? So this is a very simple query you can see, and if you guys want to use it yourself for any other thing, any other contracts, you can just press fork, and once you press fork, you'll have your own version of the query. And if you just change these addresses to the addresses that you want data of, then yeah, just go ahead and do that and press run. And yeah, then you have your own version of this working. Let's go back to the next one. Yeah, so I'm gonna run through the queries quickly so we can get to the hacks, which is I think the cooler part, right? So yeah, this is the same thing. So I basically use a template, as you can see that my template's kind of like, because essentially this is like it's like the queries I made are template queries. So I want people to fork them and use them themselves, right? So yeah, in this template, you can see that it's the same. Like you put your addresses somewhere up here in the top, and yeah, you can run the query yourself. So this one basically has the daily transaction count, right? And you can see we're using say.transactions again. As I said, we're going to be using this a lot. And yeah, with say.transactions, it just sees how many, count star means count how many, right? So just it counts how many transactions there show up, right? And it counts it per day, basically. So see, we basically take the block date and we take the TX count, because this is what we need to count that data, basically, right? As you can see. So then one cool thing about doing is you have these visualizations. So whenever you get these query results, right? So once you press run selection, you get the query results. And whenever you get the query results, you can press new and you can do these visualizations. As you can see, I'm gonna press bar chart and it's gonna it's gonna map out that data, right? And I can add that data to my, I can add it to the dashboard that I was showing you guys earlier. So now that I've added it, we'll see it back there. So let's go back there. And you can see at the bottom that visualization has been added. So that's how you add graphs to your own table, that's to your own dashboards. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. New users. All right. So you can see same like template to put like contracts in. And then what this does is like it gets the user address and it gets the first time that they ever were seen, right? So you can see it gets the minimum block date. That's what min means here. Get the minimum, like the earliest one, right? And that's how you can see like wait, sorry. So first we get the earliest one, and then we group them by week, right? So that's how we can see how many users we have per week, how many new users we have per week, because that was the first time they ever interacted, in that week. So yeah, all as you'll see that all the queries that I have here kind of all go like that. So yeah, even these ones, right? And it's mostly just put the contracts in and then you use something with say.transactions. If you need some log stuff, then you can use say.logs as well, right? But mostly it's say.transactions and sometimes say.logs and say.traces, right? And this one is weekly transaction count. So first what we're doing is we're getting like when the week starts and we're getting the number of transactions that week, because count stars the number of transactions, like what I said before, right? So then yeah, we're seeing that which of these transactions are like to the addresses in this array, right? Okay, so anyway, some of these are repetitive. I think you guys get the idea, right? So let me go to the next bit, which is the decoded table. I think Nia already showed this, but this is example of something we decoded on Say, which is the match fighters game, right? So when you have a decoded project, you can see that you'll find them in the data explorer, right? So it's take some time to come, and yeah, so it's right there. It's got a bunch of events, its functions. So usually I like to use the events. So you can see one of the events here that I put limit 100, which means show the top 100 rows of that data table. And what's cool is like if the protocol is good, they'll have good events and you can get the event data, right? So like here you can get the loser score, the match ID, the winner score, right? Which like instead of having to decode it in the SQL itself, it's just a lot easier to have it decoded, in the decoding method that Nia showed, and then use it as a table like this, right? And then one of the other really cool kind of methods I like to use is like obviously we're all using AI a lot now, and we're always encouraged to use it at Say to maximize our output. So what's really good with Dune is they're already very AI forward in the sense that like, see if I go here, so in Match Fighters, you can see that I can copy the table as Markdown. So what usually happens when you copy something as Markdown is you can easily paste it into some kind of LLM, right? So you can go to any of these three dots, copy it as Markdown, and LLMs understand Markdown really well. So what you can do is you can just copy these tables as Markdown, paste it into your favorite LLM, and then have it help you construct queries, because yeah, it just knows what columns are available then, and yeah, you'll see that once you've done this a few times, it becomes like really second nature, right? So yeah, that's really good way to like make queries, and then you can just visualize them using the new button here. And yeah, that's you'll be on your way to making like your own visualizations, your own graphs. And if you have your favorite Say projects, then you can see the data for them like that as well. Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sadman. I think we have a few questions here for you, definitely. But I think based off of what you showed, I would also love to, and feel free to show your screen again if this is one of those questions that requires it. I would love to know a little bit about SAY data and how it differs, if at all, from any other EVM. Definitely, you showed like all the raw tables and where the decoded data is. Some of those things are different than like an EVM dot transactions table or anything else. Is there anything there that users of Say data should be aware of as we're getting started?
Yeah, guys. So with Say, as you guys are coming into Say data, something that's really important is basically Say is we still are kind of like dual thread chain in the sense that like we have an EVM component and we also have a Cosmos component. All right. So let me just 1 sec. Sorry, let me just go here. So as you can see here, we have EVM stuff, and we have Cosmos stuff as well. Cosmos transactions, Cosmos balances, Cosmos blocks, essentially. So we are pivoting to only EVM, right? That project is in the works right now. But until then, you're not going to get a full picture of everything in the EVM side. Although the EVM side does have a majority of the activity right now, if you want to get a full picture, then you're going to have to look through the Cosmos data as well, right? And then the same kind of hack applies, that if you just use the markdown, then it'll really help you with some LLMs to like get very useful queries. So yeah, that's a caveat I would say that you have to keep in mind when you are looking at say data.
Yeah, and then I think one other thing that I would kind of add and tag on to that is that EVM data is decodable on Dune. At this time, the only on EVM that we have that's decodable is Solana. So when it comes to, say, Cosmos data, when you're trying to get the full picture, you will have to, in some ways, like what we call manual decoding, which is really just
Yeah.
like looking at, anything in depth. But the fortunate thing is that the Say team has thought about this, and that's why we have all of these additional raw tables here, like Cosmos transactions, Cosmos balances. A lot of this is to make the querying a lot easier. This is internal data that is one-to-one with what Say has internally, and in some cases has already been transformed slightly to make it a lot easier to digest for, Say, analysts. So definitely keep that in mind. And then, Sadman, a follow-up question would be, if they are working with the Cosmos data, is there any documentation that they should be aware of, to go and kind of start reading into how to understand the difference between, the Say EVM and Say Cosmos as you guys are making this transition?
Yeah, essentially just the general say docs. I'll just send them to you right now.
Okay.
1 second. Let me just get the link and then I'll send it as we do the questions. So yeah, just on the say docs, you'll have all the questions you need answered, all the technical questions. The coolest thing is there's a say copilot, which is like a LLM or AI kind of trained on, like all the say docs. So please, like, it's super powerful. Like, I use it all the time, and it just always gives me like the answer I need. So please just like go to the Say docs, which is at docs.say.io, and yeah, ask it any question you need, and it should be super helpful with that. So yeah, and hopefully once we transition to full EVM, which should be sometime this year, sometime sooner, and then you guys can just use the EVM data.
Okay, amazing. And so again, that is docs.say.io. I definitely missed the S, but just remember docs.say.io. Go there, start reading up on Say data. There is nothing that we can show you in this video that you won't also be able to learn on your own. Obviously, we're here to make things a lot easier, and it's amazing that Sadman was able to join, as he is the one that is often putting together queries on Dune and has made these templates for you. So you should be able to, Sadman, correct me if I'm wrong, access these templates by going to the actual Say account on Dune.
Yeah,
You should.
they're not private, they are public, so you
Awesome.
guys should be able to access them.
Great. So you should be able to publicly access these queries, and you can fork them. And as Sadman said, change out the query addresses, or the addresses that are in the template for the ones that you're interested in, and pull out the data. But I think something that Dune is always thinking about is data accuracy. So as you are going through the query and looking at all of the data, Sadman, do you have any advice for kind of doing validation on data as you're working?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. So honestly, like, it really depends on uh, like what you see. Right, sometimes you're gonna see some crazy numbers. Like, you just validate that with your common sense, or you see that, like, okay, there's no way that the volume can be that, or the price can be that. That could be something wrong with the price feed or something like that, right? And then if you see something like like a very weird transaction, then you should always go to the block explorer and validate that as well. Just have a look through it, right? And then if you're like a really serious blockchain kind of if you're really serious blockchain like sleuth or blockchain explorer, then it's always good to like also use an RPC. So if there's something on Dune that doesn't make sense, you can use the RPC to check out those blocks and see what's wrong with them, right? So it's like Dune usually does have like, it doesn't usually have missing data. right? But then, as you said, so if it depends on how critical your mission is essentially, right? So there's multiple steps, and then depending on how far you're willing to go, you should just try them all out, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely just like use your common sense as well when you're still looking at some of this stuff.
Of course, you heard it here, folks. If it's too good to be true, maybe just double check, do a little bit of due diligence. Okay, well, we're going to kick off the Q&A section. Thank you so much for that demo, Sadman. I hope it was able to help the aspiring Sei analysts out there, and that those queries get a lot of run for their money on Dune. But kicking off here, we already talked a little bit about getting started with Sei data from scratch. Would you be able to talk a little bit about your path in data and any recommendations you have with someone getting started in the Web3 analytics world?
Yeah, so my path with data was I was quite into like data and Python like early in my career, or even before my career in education. I was into that kind of like just early machine learning. Like I wasn't say I was any good at it. I was just into it. I would read documents. I would read stuff on X, stuff like that. So yeah, I would obviously try stuff on Google Colab notebooks, these free like Python notebooks, right? And then I kind of fell into crypto. So I was introduced to Twitter at the time by my friend to follow like football updates or soccer updates. And then I found crypto Twitter. I fell in the rabbit hole,
Awesome.
right? So
Awesome.
that's what I think happened to many people at the time. And yeah, like I realized that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in the space. And yeah, I just started like, I was in Discord groups, X, like I was really in the trenches at the time, right? Finding like whatever like kind of work there is, you know,
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, right now I feel like I kind of feel bad for I guess like new crypto joiners because
Mhm.
I think back then there was a lot easier to like get like kind of gigs, as I would say, right? If you're a new person, you can get a gig, maybe not a full time or like a gig, like something cool from a Discord group, like do a bit of work here, so,
Hmm.
so yeah. After that, I started working at proper protocols, and then proper projects, and yeah, I've done some cool stuff. I've worked some big, like a big arbitrum protocol called Mycelium,
Oh,
and then
awesome.
yeah, and then Say obviously is my first layer one, which I'm always super excited about. The people that I work with here are crazy and they're really good at what they do, right? So I'm super grateful to be here. So then, one advice I can give people if you guys want to break into the Web3 space. I don't know if this works for any space, but Web3 space, that's the only thing I know. So that's the only thing I can qualify to give advice on is
Yeah.
just like, please, like, bring like, bring work. Like, if you feel really confident about like this is your role, like the role is really matches your like strengths, right? And the interviews went well, right? Then man, it's a blockchain. Like the data is like out there, it's free. If you're a data analyst, just like go to the block store, scrape some data, go to Dune, get a free account, like make some queries, show up with some like queries, that you're gonna impress the hell out of the person that's interviewing you, because no, not all people will do that, right? So you have to go above and beyond, right? So if you guys want to break into this space or any space, like just remember that there's one space, a lot of you competing. So just go above and beyond, and then if your skills shine through, you'll definitely get it, right? So yeah, good luck to you, right? It's not easy, but it is worth it when you snag whatever job you really want.
I mean, I think that's a lot of nuggets of knowledge, right? Like your path has literally been, you described it as the trenches, but that's really how a lot of people get started in Web3. You have to go through the Discord, you have to go through like X Twitter, you have to continue talking to people. And a lot of times you're working with very little information. And I think to your point, you're right. Like it is definitely a different space now than it was even a few years ago. I joined in like 2022, and it still was like people were kind of just getting plucked out if they showed even like a crumb of talent. It was like get that one before they get hired. But I think now, something that I think is big for analysts is that they have people like yourself who have been building queries. You're able to go to Dune and like take a look at someone else's code and like get a really good understanding of it. And from there, kind of do your own learning, right? And like do your own research, use in a different place other than just don't take financial research online. is definitely like you can make your career what you want to make it. And I personally feel like data has become much more of like a first class citizen now than it might have been a few years ago, because people are like, well, we have to validate, we have to understand what's going on in the space. And the great thing about a public ledger is that you can't, there's no undo button, like that transaction lives on chain. So if you can see it, you can query it. Mm.
And if you guys are like, well, I would say also like if you guys have like any kind of work or research you're doing, like regularly just post that stuff on X and LinkedIn. Like if your work is good, people will like find you. You just have to like post it as well, right? If you do good work and you're keeping it to yourself, nobody's gonna find you, right? I understand like I kind of have that dilemma. A lot of people that are good at doing certain, like certain work that they're whatever they're good at, like they might feel nervous to post it, right? So yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, just DM people, post it, apply. Like yeah, if you guys have somewhat any kind of skill, I'm sure you guys will get picked up. So yeah.
Yes, yes. Good words, Sadman. Thank you so much. I'm saying it for the analysts that are probably out there thinking it. So moving on to the next question. What is your least favorite metric and why?
This is, I mean, like, I guess this is a difficult question because a lot of metrics in the Web3 can be faked,
Hmm.
right? If you guys have been following Web3 data or like doing any kind of research for a while, you can see that like it's very easy to fake metrics in Web3. So I think one that's kind of like very difficult is TVL, right? No, not yeah, TVL is difficult as well, but one that's really difficult is volume because like you can take like $1 or like 50 cents and then create like $1 million worth of volume just by transferring it back and forth, in stables. And you can do that in like a very little transaction fees on these like chains like Sei or Solana, because the whole point is they're fast with small transaction fees. So
Hmm.
yeah, you could say like you pop out a new dex and say, oh, we have $1 million of value, and it's just USDC, USDT, like one bot wallet transacting back and forth. Yeah, and then TVL also, like TVL is good, but TVL is very different compared to like what traditional TVL is, right?
Yeah.
So when a bank has TVL, so it has like let's say 2 million TVL, right? Usually a
Mm.
lot of those assets are locked, right? So most of them are usually locked. You're not just gonna like in a second, like you can't just take that out of the bank. You're not moving that. But with like crypto in layer one, usually TVL follows incentives. So like whichever chain is giving out incentives, you can farm. TVL will go to that chain, and
Yeah.
then just like in a second or the next day, the TVL can go to the next chain. So yeah,
Mhm.
TVL can be high one day and go with the next day. It's not as sticky as it is in traditional finance, right? So we have to be aware of these metrics, and especially if you're new to crypto, like you're gonna see a lot of like new protocols, new chains, this and that popping out, and they can really easily fake these metrics for a short amount of time to get you to, you know, dump money into them or whatever. So just do your own research, follow the data, use platforms like Dune and just like really like look into something before and yeah, just you'll learn more as well as you do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think those are definitely some metrics that I've heard before. Other analysts have had some very similar problems with querying them. I think on the other side, thinking about it, given your point of there are a lot of Web3 metrics that can be faked or inflated. What do you think is the best way to identify a successful chain project? Like what metric or query would you look at and say like, okay, this is doing very well?
So I mean, something that is like would be something that would be very good is like it's not I wouldn't say one metric, but a kind of process that you could see that a game or a project is doing very well is like a certain amount of wallets that hold a certain amount of money that are active on the chain, right? So for example, you can be like wallets above $10 that are actively using the chain every day, actively using the project. And you have to also make sure these wallets are not getting funded by the same source, because sometimes like it can be the same people like
Hmm.
controlling 50,000 wallets, right? So to make sure they didn't get funded from the same source, right?
Yeah.
So then yeah, that's kind of like a way to weed out bad actors, or like not bad actors, but just actors that are like kind of disguise themselves as various actors, right? So if you do these kinds of steps, then you can kind of see where the actual activity lies, right? Which is why you need to kind of sharpen your skills as well. And yeah, that's what we're really like. We're really focusing on, say, at right now, like looking at like these real like metrics underneath the hood, and not just like on the surface metrics, because those can be gamed. We're trying to find like actual like metrics that project growth and things we can track. So we're using these types of metrics. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are doing the real work, especially with like trying to figure out what needs to be filtered out. Because to your point, I don't think there is such a thing as like a simple query when you think about all of the different things that can happen on chain. So you're pulling out data of like, first it's got to be more than $10. Second, it has to be consistently funded from different like it has to be like wallets from different sources. So one person with maybe 10 wallets myself. So it definitely sounds like there are a couple other steps and other points of consideration, and looping it back around to the first question of like what will really set somebody apart, and help you get like lots of experience with Web3 data and get a job in Web3 if that's what you're eventually trying to do. Putting that consideration and methodology into like figuring out how to get real information on a chain, something that's not just something like TBL or even just active users, but it's just counting like wallets on chain or something a lot more, like select all type of query, definitely sets someone apart. And it sounds like Sei is putting a lot of thought into that on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, next question. What do you find most difficult? And I know that this is kind of in line with what we were talking about, but I'm going to change it up a little bit, based on like what I'm seeing here. What do you find difficult to analyze when it comes to cross-chain analytics?
Yeah. So with cross-chain analytics, like what's hard is like a lot of cross-chain analytics, like right now in crypto, is kind of fractured because we don't have one bridge. We have like many bridges with many kind of bridging messaging protocols, right?
Mhm.
And some chains have their own like, like USDC has their own like kind of bridge, you can say, that just transfers USDC around to different chains, right? So
Mhm.
what's kind of difficult is like when you account for cross chain transfers, you need to account for like every bridge that can be present on the chain, and then every bridge that can be present on the the opposing chain. So
Yeah.
there's no easy way to really do it. You have to do it like, so for example, if you wanted to check all bridge transfers out of Say, that's
Mhm.
actually quite like a difficult query, because there's no one query. You have to check like Say versus this and Say versus that, and then do it for every kind of chain match that exists, right? And then you
Yeah.
have to also check like where the bridges exist, right? So you have to see that Say has bridge A. Does this chain have bridge A? If it does, you have to try to query for that. So it's a long one. There's no simple way to do it, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite an annoying one all the time.
I think that that's definitely something that we've also considered at Dune. Like, I know we have a table specifically for layer zero because even to
Yeah.
the point of like the level of transformation you have to do and digging that you have to do, and even still there's some aspect of it that isn't really, I don't know if it's that it's not on chain, or there's like some information that you just can't necessarily access just straight up looking at the blockchain. There's stuff that gets lost in translation. So I definitely hear you in that, trying to do that, even like Sei to like again like maybe base or something would be hard, but you guys are looking at multiple layer ones that you might consider like interesting in terms of cross chain. So definitely do not envy that work. I do wonder, have you guys already, do you have a dashboard somewhere that's already starting to display some of those metrics and some of that data?
Uh, the cross chain.
Yeah, the bridge data specifically.
No, we don't have something specifically that displays it. Nothing public right now.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good to know. So clearly it's cooking internally, but if anybody cracks that and wants to give Sadman a hand, you should definitely hit him up. And actually, on that note, Sadman, we do have some requests in the comments for your X information. If you'd like to share where people can find you on either X or Telegram or however you want to be kind of contacted, if you want to be contacted, you can definitely let me know that, and I will put it up so that people can look you up online. Okay.
Oh, my X information is Sadman M with 2 S's to start. 2 S's, Sadman, and then M at the end. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not the best handle, but it was the only one I could find that was somewhat professional with my name.
Awesome. So I have SSAADM.
Yeah, MAN,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
M at the end.
Okay. So I'm going to put this up on the screen for you now so that people can see and find you. And so that is Sodman's X. So if anybody is interested in asking him any additional questions after we conclude here, or wants to tag him in some bridge data, you absolutely should do so. I would like to follow up with what will be our last question, Sodman. So would love to hear about what Sei has coming down the pipe, any milestones that you guys are excited to achieve, anything that you want to shout out.
Yeah, so unless you guys haven't been following, recently we've announced a partnership with Xiaomi, which is like a huge it's not a telephone brand anymore, they're an electronics brand, but they do very good telephones like all around the world, I think especially in Asia. So like it's an Android phone. A lot of people have Xiaomi phones, and yeah, they're super cool. You should just watch the videos on them. But we've announced a partnership with Xiaomi, and we've launched. Well, not we haven't launched. We're going to launch a wallet app with them, right? And this is huge for Say because it's going to really boost our distribution because it's going to come built in with the phone, and a lot of people can just access the chain and then access apps, right? So we're super excited about that, and just yeah, stay tuned and just see it's coming soon.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we are so excited to see that come out. And we're excited to see you continue to cook on Dune and build out new dashboards. Sodman, thank you so, so much for joining us today. This has been a phenomenal session. Thank you for allowing me to essentially during the Q&A session interview you about everything that you're doing at Sei and everything that's coming down the pipe. Definitely hope to continue to see you. And I know that we have ETH Denver coming up next week. Will Sei be there or having any events that you'd like to share?
I'm not exactly sure on that. I'm gonna have to check. So yeah, there should be representatives there, but I'm not sure if we have events I want to shout out just yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys keep your eyes peeled on the Say X, we should have our events being shouted out there soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, keep your eyes out on Say's X, and you should be able to see any events that come down the pipe for ETH Denver. Sodman, again, thank you so much. I am going to let you go, and then we're going to close out with a few announcements just from Dune. So Dune has something that isn't quite new, but might feel new to anyone who hasn't really been keeping up with our own personal changes. So we have 2 new connectors that are coming out for anyone who is a little bit more experienced with analytics that has found that they're looking for additional visualizations that do not currently exist on Dune, because Dune, as often as we are trying to update and create innovation, we know that there's a lot of different things going on at any given time. I would love to introduce everyone to the Trino connector. This essentially pulls all of Dune's data into your visualization BI tool of your choice. So if anybody is like familiar with Hex or Python or DB Beaver, anything that you really want to make use of or has a Trino SDK attached to it, you should be able to pull Dune's data entirely into there and do visualizations with them. We wanted to provide this to the community because what we want to do is essentially make sure that, one, Dune is data first. What's going to be most important for us is always to provide you with as much data that comes from the community, that comes from transformations, that comes from chains like Sei as possible. So while we're focusing on that, you guys are focusing on how to make beautiful insights for the rest of the community or your jobs. So make sure that you check out the Trino connector if you are finding any of our visualizations to be limited, and be able to kind of play around with that. And the other thing I would love to show you is our DBT connector. So this is a new connector that actually came out in January. So it is our youngest, I think, change at Dune. So this essentially is for everyone that is very, very familiar with our spellbook curated data sets. So you may have run into our PR pipeline and struggled with it at one point. So Dune gets hundreds of PRs. We are consistently trying to make sure that we are providing you again with the most high quality data that we can. We have an amazing team internally that is consistently surveying our curated data and making sure that you guys are getting your comments answered and everything. But sometimes that isn't enough. So our DBT connector is essentially a way to run a DBT instance on your own computer locally, and able to essentially do all the transformations that you'd like, completely negate our PR process, and then upload those tables to Dune so that you can write them as easily as you are currently querying dex.traits. So DBT connector is something that is going to be super important, especially going forward as we are working with more highly transformed data sets, as we are providing you guys with more and more access to data. There is a video tutorial here that you can always access and kind of go through. Our amazing success, one of our specialists, one of our product specialists internally, Ben Stam, put this together for you guys so that you're actually able to see how it would work. But the crux of it is that if you work on Spellbook and you want to build out tables that you can't necessarily do with the current setup, please pull DBT into your own instance. We have a step-by-step guide here for you to actually be able to do so. And then you can build anything that you like with all of the data that is available on Dune today. So we want to make sure that is fully accessible to you. And I hope that you guys are able to enjoy it. I mean, Dune is coming out with some amazing things in the next couple of months, and we want to bring you guys all along for the ride. So please stay tuned for, our more Dune Learns. Keep an eye on our X for anything that we have coming down the pipe and anything that we're doing in the future. And I hope that I get to see all of you one day. So I am going to close this out now. Thank you again so much for joining us, and I will see you at the next Dune Learns. Okay.